Lance Armstrong, correct? Now let me ask you, what did Lance Armstrong or any of the other professional bikers do to you? They didn't physically hurt you or even emotionally hurt you. It's fair to say that's right. If they did, okay, then we have an issue. But I doubt that they did anything to any of us. But you know what they did for me and for all of us? They raised over $500 million for cancer research to help cure one of the deadliest diseases on the planet. Good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, judges, and Mr. Redigan. I'm Eddie Weiss, and today my partner Cooper Tolan and I will be debating on behalf of the affirmative side for the resolution resolved that performance-enhancing drugs should be allowed for use by athletes in professional and Olympic sports. A professional sport is defined as a sport in which the athlete receives payment for their performance. Also, a performance-enhancing drug, according to the medicaldictionary.com, is defined as any substance used to improve athletic performance. Immediately, I would like to inform everyone here that as the affirmative side, we have the power and the right to limit this debate argument, and we will limit it to blood doping. According to Merriam-Webster.com, blood doping is described as a technique for temporarily improving athletic performance in which oxygen-carrying red blood cells previously withdrawn from an athlete are injected back just before an event. To give you a more feasible description of what blood doping does is it simply increases the amount of red blood cells in one's body. In the body, the red blood cells carry oxygen from the lungs to the muscles. Thus, a higher concentration of these red blood cells improves aerobic capacity and endurance. In history, there is not one exact date that this performance-enhancing technique was first used, but it's estimated that it was first brought into action in the 1970s, but not legally outlawed until 1985 and 1986. During its legal period, it was used by skiers, skaters, runners, swimmers, and triathletes, and many other endurance-based racing events. In the event of blood doping, you need to know what you're doing, of course. So there are a few different methods to it. The first method is either a homologous or autologous blood transfusion. A homologous transfusion would be removing little amounts of blood from a person of the same blood type, concentrated by freezing it, and injecting it back into the body a few days before the competition. An autologous is almost the same, except instead of using another person's blood, you simply use your own. The medical professionals that would be handling these transfusions are expertly trained not to make any mistakes in the process of removing or injecting the blood. The other known way would be an injection of something called erythropoietin, or EPO for short. According to Dr. Jane Sadler, EPO is an all-natural hormone produced from the human kidneys. An extra injection of this all-natural hormone would produce more red blood cells, just another way to add more oxygen to the body. Also, the use of blood doping does not give the muscle-building advantage that other performance enhancers do. Thus, not everyone is forced to take them to keep up with the rest. The use of other types of performance-enhancing drugs would make a difference in leagues such as the NFL by making people hit harder. But once again, all that blood doping does is increase endurance and oxygen intake, which means, in the NFL, a 300-pound man would just be able to run longer distances without the fear of overexertion. Now, let me give you a reason or two why blood doping should be allowed if my previous reasoning wasn't enough. Currently, athletes can purchase something called a hyperbaric sleep chamber or a hyperbaric sleep bed. It's quite an expensive purchase, standing at approximately $13,000. What this does is while the athlete is sleeping inside this bed, the bed provides the athlete with an abundance of oxygen and makes it easier for blood to flow through them and give oxygen to the muscles. Now tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure that this bed does the exact same thing as blood doping. So why is it that blood doping is illegal? By the same argument as the sleep chamber falls altitude training. Altitude training improves endurance and aerobic capacity by training at a lower oxygen level, so when you compete at an equally elevated event, you would have the advantage because of the increase of blood oxygen in your body. If their argument is that this technique has unhealthy effects, then that argument is invalid. Blood doping is a perfectly healthy practice, which means that if an athlete decides to use this technique, it will not harm their body with any short or long-term conditions. Also, blood doping has been documented in many cycling cases and other sports. In the latest Tour de France, a world-renowned bike race, it was noted that the top 20 or so racers had improved themselves athletically with the help of blood doping. In our plan, Cooper will further explain how we will be allowing and regulating the use of blood doping in professional and Olympic sports. With the evidence that I have provided, I see no argument against the use and practicality of blood doping in professional and Olympic sports. There's no reason not to allow it. Remember, next time you see Lance Armstrong, make sure to thank him. It's time to change the game for the better. Thank you. Vote affirmative.